This week on ANN, the denomination's tech professionals share practical tips for evangelism during the church's annual Communication and Technology Conference.
Seventh-day Adventist Church President Ted Wilson pledges funds to help completely restore a damaged high school in northeast India.
And Elder Ted Wilson also encourages members in the church's East Central Africa territory.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, the Seventh-day Adventist Church last week held its annual Internet and Communication Conference, which explores new ways of using technology to share the gospel. The 5-day Global Adventist Internet Network Conference, or GAIN, featured presentations that ranged from cybersecurity and app development to virtual currency and operating an information technology department on a budget. Several presenters highlighted the popularity and effectiveness of developing games for education and ministry. Another talk focused on the emergence of multi-site churches, which share worship services via video conferencing. One presenter illustrated how mapping techniques can best allocate mission resources within a town or throughout an entire country. Also during the conference, leaders from the church's North American region announced a distance learning portal that will go live in March. The denomination's Chief Information Officer, Nancy Lamoureux, told conference participants to imagine the possibilities of what could be developed with emerging web technology. This year's conference, for the first time, was held online and drew thousands of participants from 106 countries. Videos of the conference presentations will soon be posted on the website gain.adventist.org.
In September, we reported that an Adventist high school in northeast India was hit by a deadly flash flood that killed a teacher and severely damaged the school's property. Seventh-day Adventist Church President Ted Wilson, along with local church administrators, recently pledged funds that will complete the renovation for the Riverside Adventist Academy. According to the Adventist Review, the funds will go toward purchasing furniture that is severely needed for the Academy's dining hall.
World Church President Ted Wilson continued his travels to the church's East Central Africa region. In Tanzania, Wilson spoke at the culmination of a 3-week campaign that drew more than 40,000 people from 11 countries. In his sermon, Wilson encouraged church members to shake Africa for Christ and to be in connection and communion with God every day. Following the meetings, more than 2,300 people were baptized in the Indian Ocean. Wilson told the Adventist Review the mass baptism service was a beautiful sight and a wonderful blessing from God.
A year of conflict in the world's youngest country has forced more than 2 million people to flee their homes, leaving millions displaced and without proper nutrition. With this context, World Church President Ted Wilson continued his travels to South Sudan, where he urged members to be ambassadors of reconciliation and peace. According to the Adventist Review, Wilson wanted to make sure members in the war-torn country knew they were part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church world community. Wilson told the Review, "They are so happy to be part of God's great family. They are wonderful, friendly, and faithful people."
During the inauguration of a science center in the church's university in Rwanda, the nation's Prime Minister commended the Seventh-day Adventist Church for its commitment to education. World Church President Ted Wilson also attended the dedication of the Science and Technology Center for the Adventist University of Central Africa in Kigali. According to the Adventist Review, a representative of the nation's president, Paul Kagame, told attendees that the government wished to continue partnering with the school by providing infrastructure projects and security. In Wilson's remarks, he underscored how Adventists believe in education because of Jesus' ministry. Wilson said, "Christ ministered to people physically, mentally, socially, and spiritually, and that is why we have educational institutions as one of the 4 facets of our work." The university has approximately 4,000 students.
After months of deliberation and fundraising efforts, church and school leaders voted to cease operations of an Adventist boarding academy in the U.S. state of Ohio. Earlier this year, administrators of the Mount Vernon Academy stated that the school needed to raise $1.5 million by February 10 and another $1.5 million by March 10 to keep the school open for the next school year. Leaders last week announced that the funds raised weren't enough to reach the first fundraising benchmark. With the lack of funds to continue operations, the Academy will close at the end of the current school year. In a press release, Ron Halverson, president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Ohio, said the church will create a committee to help their students receive an Adventist education when Mount Vernon closes. Another committee will help oversee the care of the Academy's campus and land at the end of the school year. Halverson also said money that was donated to the fundraiser will be used to help students in Ohio who want to continue Adventist secondary education in the years to come.
A Seventh-day Adventist university in Thailand earlier this month hosted a group of volunteer ophthalmologists who offered free eye care for more than 250 local elderly residents. Asia Pacific International University hosted the Mobile Eye Surgery Clinic, which is sponsored by the local Red Cross Society. The surgeries for most cases took 5 to 10 minutes to complete, while more challenging cases took up to an hour. The mobile clinic was set up in various spots around campus, including a multi-use room, the dining room, and the church parking lot. Organizers said the highlight of the 5-day event was an appearance by Phan Wanamete, who is Secretary General of the Thai Red Cross Society. He represented Princess Maha Chakri Sarundan, who is Executive Vice President of the National Society.
According to the Religious News Service, there is a push in the United States for the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS, to clarify the rules on political endorsements from the pulpit. Currently, the IRS allows clergy to address political issues, but they cannot endorse a political candidate. Both religious and secular groups are joining together to ask the agency how they can provide more information to help non-profit organisations abide by the rule. To help explain the perimeters of the current law, my co-anchor, Erica Jones, sat down with Dwayne Leslie from the Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department and Todd McFarlane from the Church's General Council.
Dwayne, Todd, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, glad to be here.
With more and more Adventists running for political office, are there rules that local churches should remember as they maybe want to invite these candidates to speak at their churches?
Well, yes, there are. There are specific rules in the United States and other parts of the world. And generally speaking, nonprofit organizations such as churches can't what's known as oppose or support a candidate for office. So, it's inappropriate to have, campaign rallies there, to use the basement as a staging area to go put out yard signs. And if inviting a particular candidate, that requires special care if the person is going to speak before the church.
And the thing to emphasize, even though this is a specific issue in the United States, other countries around the world have very similar rules. And again, the church can really find itself getting into trouble when we really wade into the political process. It's okay for members to be involved in issues, but the church itself as a corporate entity really should not be taking sides in the political.
And the key here is, and this applies both in the United States and overseas, is even though there are specific IRS rules in the United States that govern this, the Adventist Church really tries to follow the same process throughout the world. We don't want to be tied to one particular candidate. First of all, it's not why the church exists. Second of all, even the most popular of candidates is going to have church members who disagree, and we want this to be a place where people feel comfortable worshiping regardless of their political affiliation. And third, and maybe most importantly, is you don't want to tie your fate to one particular person or political party. It may be great while they're in power, but if you're known as, supporting, XYZ party, when the ABC party gets in place, maybe your fortunes and your ability to continue your mission are decreased.
So what are some of the problems with churches endorsing a specific candidate or making strong political statements?
Well, really, again, as Todd mentioned, the problem is we don't want to take sides. That's not the role of the church. The church is supposed to be, we have a evangelism focus, not really a political one. Now, when the issues come up, for example, in religious liberty, if the church's religious liberty is impacted, we may want to get involved to protect our rights, but we're not necessarily trying to influence legislation or specific parties.
Well, no, yeah, and that's an important thing, is there's a difference between issues and specific pieces of legislation and candidates for office. So it's perfectly appropriate, and the Adventist Church has done this in the U.S. and around the world, to support and oppose specific government regulations and laws. What we don't do is support or oppose a particular candidate for office.
Okay. Finally, what should churches and church pastors keep in mind as this becomes more common? What types of principles should they think about as they decide what kind of topics and ideas they want to endorse?
I think the main thing is they need to avoid trying to make this about a particular person. Talk about our mission, talk about our values, talk about things that we support. As long as you keep it idea-based, you're going to be fine. Anytime you find yourself saying this is our person, or this is our guy, or this is our woman, or this is the common sense candidate, that should be raising red flags, and pastors have to be really careful about not endangering the church's status with the government in opposing or supporting a candidate for office.
And what I think the pastors should really do is encourage their members to be politically active and to vote for their particular preferences, but not emphasize one side over the other and not take sides. It's important for us to be involved in the process, but we don't need to advocate for one person or one party in an election.
Coming up, Adventist Health Ministries honors a couple who dedicated their lives to promoting materials for healthy lifestyles.
Welcome back. And now for more news from our global church community.
The church's Health Ministries Department recently presented its Medal of Distinction to a couple who have promoted a model of health expos that congregations have used in communities worldwide. Charles and Phoebe Cleveland received the award during a graduation ceremony at a lifestyle education center in the U.S. state of Georgia. Health Ministries Director Dr. Peter Landless said the ceremony was a wonderful opportunity to honor the Clevelands for their lifetime of service to health ministries. Charles Cleveland is president of Health Education Resources, a nonprofit organization that produces health education materials in 40 languages.
During last month's Australia Day, 3 Adventists were honoured for their work with the Sydney Adventist Hospital and its affiliate organisations. Record in Focus has more.
Among those awarded were 3 individuals associated with the Sydney Adventist Hospital. Philanthropist Norma Rosenheim was recognised for her support of disadvantaged families in Asia. Her generosity is also felt at home. Last year she made significant donations towards the establishment of a healing garden for cancer patients at the hospital. Professor John Watson, the head of Avondale College's Clinical Education School on hospital grounds, was recognised for his contribution to neurology and medical education. And another doctor, Neil Street, was awarded for his work as a paediatric anaesthetist, particularly in connection with his volunteer work with the hospital's health outreach charity, Open Heart International.
In the Inter-America region of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, leaders organized a week-long event that emphasized pastoral families. During the week of prayer, leaders encouraged pastors to take time to strengthen their families spiritually, mentally, and physically. Leaders also prayed that the territory's 3,400 pastors and their families will gain a spiritual revival through spending time in God's Word and in prayer. A digital magazine was also designed for pastoral families and is available in English, Spanish, and French. The magazine is available online at 2015.interamerica.org.
A religious liberty festival on the island nation of Curaçao last month gave government leaders the opportunity to embrace religious freedom. The event was organised by the Curaçao Religious Liberty Foundation, which is sponsored by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. According to Sherman Cork, Director for Public Affairs and Religious Liberty for the Church in Curaçao, its neighbouring island Bonaire, people have the ability to change religious affiliations, but it is sometimes met with social hostility. Koch went on to say that is why it's important to foster awareness of this fundamental human right of religious freedom. Prior to the festival, the Foundation also hosted its first Religious Liberty dinner. During the event, government officials and religious leaders had a chance to learn more about the Curaçao Religious Liberty Foundation and the importance of religious freedom on the island.
On the island of Jamaica, 2,000 couples renewed their marital vows during a free couples conference that was organized by the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the nation. The Journey Toward Intimacy conference was held at Northern Caribbean University in Manville. Willie and Elaine Oliver, co-directors of family ministries for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, led the conference with tips on how to improve marriages. During the conference, the Olivers said the most critical ingredient to strengthening marriage is to surrender to God and self. Each of the couples who attended the conference also received a 21-page workbook that was written by the Olivers. The workbook offers practical information from the Bible and Ellen G. White, who was a co-founder of the Adventist Church.
And finally in the news this week, the Seventh-day Adventist Church recently announced the newest language to join the 15 languages and 29 subtitled languages that are available for the United in Prayer campaign. The campaign is now available in Spanish Sign Language, LSE, and was translated by the Inter-European region of the Adventist Church. Viewers can now watch the video and see a sign language interpreter in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. You can view the videos at vimeo.com/theadventistchurch.
Still ahead, see the faces of Gaines Online participants.
But up next, find out what's in the latest issue of Dynamic Steward magazine.
I've hit rock bottom. I'm at my wit's end. I've been searching, looking for something more. Some people stop here. Some people don't get up. But I haven't given up hope yet. And I know it's going to take faith.
Welcome back. Larry Evans shares a preview of the current edition of Dynamic Steward magazine.
When Jesus told his disciples to go into all the world, he meant just that. In the book of Revelation, that commission was clarified by saying that the everlasting gospel is to go to every nation, tribe, language, and people. No one is to be left out. I'm pleased to say that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is making every effort to reach out to everyone with the hope found in Jesus, regardless of where they live or what language they speak. In fact, with the formation of the Special Needs Ministries Committee, a greater emphasis is now being placed on reaching out to the blind, the deaf, and those who are physically disabled. It was time, actually past time, for this emphasis. In fact, we feel it is such an important part of our stewardship that we are giving a full issue of the Dynamic Steward to this particular issue. It addresses needs and opportunities of reaching out to this unique and special group of people. We encourage you to view this issue online at AdventistStewardship.com or ask to be on our free electronic email list. In this issue, you will find a fascinating interview with Joan Bova, who has been bound to a wheelchair for decades. Her very positive attitude will inspire you. You will also learn valuable insights about the deaf and the blind. Jesus told his disciples that where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. It became clear that he had a heart of concern for everyone. 23 of his 35 recorded miracles dealt in some way with those who were disabled. Surely our stewardship, financially and otherwise, should include those whom society has called the disabled. Learn more about this group that is so often marginalized by reading the latest issue of the Dynamic Steward by going to AdventistStewardship.com and look under the resource section.
Thousands of people from around the world participated in the church's annual Technology and Communication Conference known as GAIN. Here's a glimpse of some of the viewers who engaged with the presenters during the online conference.
Looking for a way to display tweets and posts from a specific hashtag? Tagboard might just be the answer. Angela Taipei has more for this week's social media segment.
Hashtags can be a valuable tool in social media, but sometimes it's hard to see all of the results in one place. Tagboard.com is a great way to visually search a hashtag across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google+, Vine, and Flickr. You can also use it in two ways. The first is to simply search a hashtag of interest to see what people are sharing. You can search any hashtag for free. If you created an account and paired it with your social media accounts, you can even interact with the posts, replying, liking, and retweeting all from one place. You can also set up a tag board for a specific hashtag. When you do this, you can personalize the board with a cover picture, profile picture, a description, and links to your relevant pages. Then you can feature posts that are representative of the hashtag, which will be the first post that people see when they visit your tag board. If you're asking people to share their pictures of an event using a particular hashtag, this is a great way to see all those pictures and comments in one place. And of course, make sure to feature the best posts. There are some things to watch out for though. With the free service, you are limited to only creating one tag board. Also, while using the free version, you have no control over what appears, as there is no option for moderating content or setting filter words. So if you're choosing to display your tag board at a church event, for example, it may be worth paying for that extra feature. Otherwise, make sure your hashtag is unique and specific to your event or church so that unrelated posts don't appear. Another option, if you're planning on using the free account, is to only display the featured posts page and not the most recent posts. Use this tool as a great way to find and gather the content that your church members may already be sharing on social media.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, learn what happened after the church's first healthcare institution caught fire in 1902.
This week in Adventist history is notable for fires. On February 15, 1951, the Angola Union Mission Executive Committee founded Casa Publicadora Angolana, the Angola Publishing House. Last year, it printed almost 43,000 Bibles and over 188,000 other religious books for Angola's 2 Union missions. On February 16, 1930, Porter Sanitarium and Hospital, as it was then called, officially opened in Denver, Colorado. Today known as Porter Adventist Hospital, it is a 368-bed acute care hospital which last year treated over 150,000 patients. In the early morning of February 18, 1902, the main building of Battle Creek Sanitarium burned to the ground. The original Adventist healthcare institution, founded in 1866, sadly the question of whether to rebuild it or not, and if so, under what conditions, led to significant disputes between church leaders and the sanitarium's charismatic but headstrong medical director, John Harvey Kellogg. He seized control of the institution in 1908 after being disfellowshipped by the Battle Creek Church. 13 years later, also on February 18, but in 1915, a fire destroyed the women's residence of the Southern Training School in Graysville, Tennessee. The loss of the building prompted church leaders to buy a new piece of property near Chattanooga, which they renamed Collegedale, and to reshape and rename the training school. The next year in 1916, it reopened as Southern Junior College, today's Southern Adventist University. That was this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter/Adventist Church and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from Galatians chapter 6, verses 9 and 10. The passage says, "So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Therefore, whenever we have the opportunity, we should do good to everyone, especially to those in the family of faith."
That's our program for this week, and remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.